everyone. Today I wanted to do a short, sweet, and to the point video that's a little bit different than what I would normally do. And that's mainly because I want to quickly cover what's going on with Lightning Lane Premier Pass and also raise a question of, do you think Lightning Lane is ruining the magic here? If you're not aware, Lightning Lane Premier Pass was officially announced this morning, but there's been talk about it for quite a while now. The gist of it is you'll pay a very large premium to be able to access, attractions without having to make selections throughout the day. Essentially avoiding having to get up at 7 a.m. to select 3 attractions and then get to the attractions and then make more. No, in this case, you pay your ridiculous hundreds of dollars, and then you can then turn around and just basically walk on to whatever attraction you want to ride. At least that's how it's being sold. There's going to be a few caveats in that, obviously. But overall, they're trying to make Premier Pass something akin to Express Pass over at Universal. But there's one pretty large caveat here. Well, several actually. First of all, Disney Deluxe Resorts are going to be the only hotels that are, or the only people that are going to be able to get this new Premier Pass, or people staying at Disney's Deluxe Resorts. That's right. So you're going to have to spend probably over $500 a night to stay in a deluxe resort just to have the ability to purchase this at first. Keep in mind, I'm sure this will roll out to other hotels in the future. I'm sure this is just part of its initial rollout and testing and whatnot. With that said, people keep saying this is going to be a disaster and blah, blah, blah. It's not. The reality is people are going to line up and pay for it just like they line up and pay for everything else at Disney. So, and I'm not even saying that this is necessarily a bad thing. I think this is a great thing for certain people, just like most things at Disney World. You get Photo Pass with it, and basically the perks of all your other, Lightning Lane system before. And to my understanding, you'll be able to essentially ride everything that was in the multi-attraction Lightning Lane, as well as your single attraction Lightning Lane. Essentially a catch-all, ride anything you want. At least that's how it's billed. Until you go down and start reading some of the fine print here. Like how much does it cost? Up to $450 plus tax. The kicker for me though, and I'm trying to find it here. The kicker for me is that you can only use Premier Pass on each attraction once per day. So it's essentially like Universal's Express Pass, but not like Universal Express Pass Unlimited, which is what most people are familiar with today, because that's what you get if you're staying at Universal's, Portofino Bay, Hard Rock, Royal Pacific Resorts. Where this, you're only going to be able to ride an attraction once for your $400. So let's say you get it for Magic Kingdom, and all you want to do is ride It's a Small World all day long. Well, you can't. You can ride it once with your Premier Pass, and that's it. And that would be understandable for select attractions, like Tron, let's say, or even, Mine Train, perhaps. But when you're paying this much money, and Disney World's already got a relatively low number of attractions in each park to begin with, particular Animal Kingdom, and I understand that Animal Kingdom is going to be on the cheaper end. So if we go down here, cost for Animal Kingdom will be the one that starts at $129. And then I think you can go up to nearly $200. The problem with that is, what are you really getting there? Dinosaur is about to close. Flight of Passage, obviously, a great experience. But you can get that for, let's say, $30 a day on kind of an average day these days, which is equally ridiculous. But still, that's only $30. The only other things you really need it for is going to be Expedition Everest, because Feathered Friends in Flight and The Lion King and Nemo here, and Tough to Be a Bug, which is going to be closing too. All these 4 attractions don't really have waits. It's a show. You walk in pretty much any time. You're getting a Lightning Lane return time for one of these doesn't really help you in any way. With the exception of The Lion King, I realize on certain days you may have to get there a little early because that show is one that fills up. But for the others, pretty much you walk in right before, 10 minutes before showtime and you're good. So the Safari, River Journey, I get those can be long too, but if you're in the park and I get Animal Kingdom's not open all day compared to, the other parks, but still, let's say in a roughly, let's say your average park day is 10 hours of operating time. Surely, even if you paid the $30 to get on Avatar, surely you can wait, a couple hours combined for these other ones, especially if you get there first thing in the morning. If you get there first thing in the morning, you can knock everything else out pretty much in an hour, and you'll be spending the rest of your day waiting on shows anyway. Moving over to Disneyland, we see similar system. It's basically going to be the same thing there. However, one big caveat that I did not mention in Disney World is that in Disney World, your Premier Pass will only be good for the park you choose. It's not like multi-pass system that's currently in place where you can get it for one park or all the parks. So if you have a park hopper with multi-pass, you can choose Animal Kingdom, and Animal Kingdom might be a little bit cheaper than Magic Kingdom or Epcot. But if you want to visit multiple parks on the same day, if you have park hopper, you can choose the 4-park option, which will let you make reservations in multiple parks. And that gives you kind of the ability to jump around and stack, reservations for later in the day at a park that you're, at the opposite park that you're planning on visiting in the morning. That's not going to be an option here with the new system, because with Premier Pass, you won't be able to switch parks with it. So if you make a reservation, if you purchase it for Magic Kingdom, you're not going to be able to go hop over to Epcot later in the day and use it. You'll be able to use it, later in the day if you hop back to Magic Kingdom again, but you're not going to be able to use it outside of Magic Kingdom. And that's just completely stupid. I mean, I get it probably from a crowd control standpoint and all that jazz with numbers, and I know they're looking at all that, but still, that just further complicates things to a level that doesn't really need to be there. Because if we go to Disneyland, that doesn't appear to be the case here. In Disneyland, it seems like if you buy it and you have a park hopper, you can use it in either park. In Disneyland, I can see this, despite it being more expensive, I think it's going to be around the $400 point here. $300 to $400 for for Disneyland and California Adventure. Which, as ridiculous as that sounds, it feels like it's actually a better deal because you can use it in both parks and theoretically knock everything out in a single day if you really, 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 really wanted to. Maybe 2. If you want, really, you could theoretically go to the parks for 2 days. Your first day, hit all your major attractions like rides, cars, and on, while you have Premier Pass, and then spend your second day strolling around at a more leisurely pace, hitting all your shows. So to wrap this video up, and the reason I wanted to put this together real quick, is to ask the question, is all this Lightning Lane nonsense ruining the magic? It's, for one, complicating things significantly. For guests, for workers, for everyone. Quite frankly, this is just... Genie Plus was a marketing and PR disaster because it was so difficult to explain to anyone. And I actually applaud the change, just going straight to Lightning Lane, making it kind of more streamlined and simpler. But this is just further complicating things, number one. And I also ask the question of, do you think this is ruining the magic? Because for me, the last few times I've been, specifically it seems like post-COVID, it just has, things at Disney World especially just don't seem like they used to be. I went to Disneyland in around 2017 when Max Pass was a thing. It just come out probably within that year, 6 months maybe prior. And that didn't feel like it took away from anything. I did get Max Pass, and it wasn't much at the time, $10-15 or whatever it was back then. And it felt like a super deal. Locals that wanted to visit the parks could still use, their old paper Fast Pass system. But people that were going for, their once-in-a-lifetime kind of trip out there could spend a little bit more and have the convenience of not having to run through the park trying to get a paper ticket. It just felt like a happy medium middle ground that was still within reach of the average park goer. This stuff is absolutely ridiculous. $400 on top of, again, having to spend $500 plus on a hotel at a deluxe resort to then charge $130, $150, depending on the day of the week, month of the year for a park ticket per person, and on top of that to then charge upwards of anywhere $200 to $400 for this on top of it. And again, this is supposed to be an exclusive thing, limited, yada yada. But still, it always felt like before, Disney World and Land, but more specifically Disney World, was always one of those places that was an equalizer of people. Whether you were staying at a $500 a night deluxe resort or $100 a night value resort, you always got the same level of service and care. Staying at a deluxe resort did get you some extra amenities, but it's not like you were paying extra for maid service or anything like that, or, that the workers there were overwhelmingly nicer. That wasn't the case. You got the exact same experience, whether you were staying at the cheapest place or the most expensive place. And in the parks, that was the same way. It didn't matter where you stayed, you got the exact same experience. Now, obviously, if you stayed at a Disney hotel, you were rewarded with extra magic hours, and that was an excellent benefit. But keep in mind, that wasn't limited to just people staying at deluxe hotels. Anybody staying at a Disney on-site resort, or even at one of the downtown hotels, got access to those perks. The best way I can describe this is it almost feels like Disney's trying to create second-class citizens, and that's not the best way to put that, I know, but it's getting worse and worse, where Disney's it feels like trying to separate people by classes. And it goes back to that unfavorable attendance mix that Bob Chapek talked about years ago. And I realize pass holders often feel mistreated, like they're not, liked enough, that they're not noticed enough, and there's definitely some validity there. So looking at Disney's other announcement from this morning that's gone largely, overlooked because of the major announcement, which is Premier Pass, is this add-on for DVC. Now, I get DVC, and whatnot. Those people had the add-on years ago for Tables in Wonderland and whatnot, and that always kind of seemed cheesy to me, that you're charging people extra to give I'm not a fan of a quote-unquote discount club like that, where you're going to charge me to then save me money. It just seems ridiculous. Now, I understand if you enjoy it, you like it, it makes sense to you. If it makes financial sense, you're coming out ahead because you eat at Disney or whatever that much, that, the discounts work out in your favor, then, that was absolutely, my thoughts were absolutely go for it. Just because I think it's kind of dumb doesn't mean I personally wouldn't do it if the economics make sense. With that in mind, to go back to what I was saying about Disney, trying to almost create classes of people, and separate people into their, financial bracket, you've got this announcement of a new Disney Vacation Club membership Magic Beyond package, which essentially means you've paid tens of thousands of dollars to join DVC, pay thousands of dollars a year, likely in resort fees for being, and maintenance fees for being a DVC member, and then you get the special privilege of paying, $95 a year? $99 a year, sorry, for extra benefits. And what are these extra benefits? Oh, you can meet Goofy and I think Mickey at the Imagination Pavilion, which you can do already if you're a Chase Visa card holder. Woo. And you also get premier access to the lounge. For those crowded days when you don't want to wait in line for access, you can now skip the line for $99. And I get there's a couple other things here that are likely worth it to some DVC members. And again, if the economics make sense for you, go for it. That's not, my point isn't to come down on anybody that's a DVC member and sees value in this. My point is that Disney should be offering these kind of bare minimum perks to people who are already spending a fortune for a DVC membership. That's just, the great one here is receiving a 30-day Memory Maker entitlement to capture and share treasured Walt Disney World memories. Well, if you've got an annual pass, you've probably got Memory Maker already included. So, and what's 30 days going to do? I get it. It's, if you're going on, if you're the type of DVC member that goes once a year, for a week, then that makes perfect sense. Again, the $99 is cheaper than Memory Maker. Financially, makes perfect sense. But it just seems cheesy. It just feels like, you're grasping at straws to create another quote-unquote exclusive club here to charge people more money for relatively minimal benefits. If this included, like I said before, Tables in Wonderland, if this included, a large discount at restaurants or something, or priority access at restaurants where you didn't have to wait in line, I could understand it. But that's not what this is. This is just ludicrous. So, to wrap all this up, I'm curious to hear, what do you think about this whole Genie Plus, Lightning Lane, Premier Pass, whatever it is we're calling things these days? And how have you felt that it's changed the way Disney operates over the last, 5 years, since before going back to FastPass Plus, and even if you want to compare in, the old paper FastPass system to that? Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments. I'd really like a lively discussion on this one, because I would like to, potentially go a little bit further into this, maybe do a deep dive in a more traditional video in the future. So until then, thanks for watching.